What's up guys, this is Killer App with Hip Hop Science and you're watching Hip Hop 101. Now the goal of this video is to provide some background and context for anyone trying to understand and appreciate hip hop music. Whether you're a longtime hip hop connoisseur or you're just someone new trying to break into the genre, I guarantee there's going to be something in this video for you to appreciate. I'm going to be breaking down the 5 fundamental components of hip hop, which I believe in order are the instrumental, the delivery, the flow, the rhymes, and the lyrics. If you want to jump straight ahead to any of these sections, the timestamps are going to be in the description below, and as always, if you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, because there's always going to be so much more where this came from. Now, without further ado, let's get to it. The instrumental, commonly known as the beat, is the base to all hip-hop music. It sets the atmosphere, the mood, lays down the tempo, gives you something to groove to before anyone has even said a word. Most importantly, it lays down the foundational rhythmic and melodic elements for the song. Depending on when the kicks are hitting, how fast the cymbals are, where the snare or the clap is placed, all of these things fundamentally change what an artist can say over the beat while still sounding good. A good beat is truly make or break in hip hop. No matter where you look, I guarantee that every popular song you heard has a classic and instantly recognizable beat. A good beat even has the power to overshadow a rapper's vocal deficiency, and in fact, it can make things that might not otherwise sound good pop. Now, let's try a little exercise here. I'm going to be playing you 2 bars from 3 completely different songs from 3 different generations. And what I suspect is that, even after the first bar, you're going to be able to guess what songs they are. And, you don't have to be a hip-hop expert, you don't have to be listening to the genre very much. Even if you're new, I bet you've heard at least 2 of these songs before. Let's see how well you do. So, I bet you did pretty good. This is a demonstration of how instrumental, pun intended, a beat is to a song's success. Clubs don't play hip hop for the words, though of course they can help. They play it for the banging beats that get people going. Now, given the instrumental is solid and it's foundationally there, the next thing is the delivery. Delivery encompasses the tone of the artist's vocal performance. It includes things like dynamics, which is basically, is it loud and aggressive, or is it soft and gentle? It includes things like pitch, so does it have a melody, or is it just monotonous like this on one pitch the whole time without any variation whatsoever, which can sometimes be good, but sometimes not, I don't know. It includes also something called timbre, which is just a fancy way of saying the texture of the voice that you're hearing. So is it like a man's harsh, rugged voice, or is it like a soft woman's voice, like a lullaby? So all of these things combined really aggregate to encompass the delivery of a performance. Here's an example of the same phrase being delivered in 2 completely different ways. Here's an example of why the delivery matters.
Here's an example of why the delivery matters.
Now, of course, we see some very clear differences between the 2. Firstly, the first one is aggressive, loud, and in your face. The second one's softer, more somber. First one is aimless and it's just some guy kind of talking. The second one is like a directional melody that you can clearly hear. And of course, first one's a guy, second one's a girl. Very different textures and how those 2 voices sounds, and there's a reason why you can always tell 2 voices apart even when they're singing the exact same melodies, exact same thing. That's because of their textures. Now, the delivery is important because it builds on the instrumental in setting the mood for the song. If the delivery doesn't match the beat, there's going to be a disconnect between what emotions the listener feels from each of those parts. Here's some good examples of delivery and how they should vary depending on the instrumental. Firstly,
Young Savage, why you trapping so hard? Why do you capping so hard? Why you got a 12-car garage?
21 Savage does an incredible job of matching the beat with his delivery here. He comes at you with a cool, collected, low energy, low pitch, dark delivery that mashes perfectly with Metro Boomin's incredible production. 21 Savage is a perfect example of a rapper who people listen to in large part for his delivery, and personally I think it's his best trait. While the sound is not for everybody, me personally I'm not the biggest fan, the idea is that his delivery is perfect for what it does, and there's a huge market out there for people who want to listen to this sort of dark music. Now on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I'll give you another example.
Congratulations, worked so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication.
Here we have a complete 180. The instrumental's uplifting, powerful and dramatic with the synths in the background, and Post Malone's melodic delivery, he matches that tone flawlessly and makes you feel a sort of unadulterated triumph. Delivery is obviously the bedrock of the vocal performance. Nobody cares about what you say if your delivery is unengaging or confusing. Do you think Tupac would be the legend he is if he delivered his powerful messages with a 21 Savage laid-back delivery instead of his usual in-your-face performance? I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, alive, well, let shed a black myself. Actually, that was kind of fire, but I digress. Up next, we're going to be talking about flow. Flow in its basic premise is how an artist uses rhythm in his or her verse. This is simple in concept, but in my opinion it's the hardest thing to truly grasp because there's no real guidance on how one should flow. There's an infinite room for creativity in this element because everything from how you're breaking up your syllables, which syllables you're accentuating, how you group your rhythms, and when and where you pause all contribute to the overarching concept of flow. I'll probably make another video on advanced flow concept because it is my absolute favorite aspect of hip-hops to study, but for now I'll give you some rhythms that are common in hip-hop. First we'll look at the straight eighth note or single time flow. If you don't know what an eighth note is, that's basically a note that lasts for an eighth of the bar. If you play eighth notes, you'll end up with a full bar. Anyway, here's Kendrick Lamar's Humble to demonstrate this flow.
Hey, I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances, finessing on them with some counterfeits, but now I'm counting this.
Next, we'll look at the eighth note triplet flow, commonly known recently as the Migos flow. It's called a triplet because over each beat there's going to be 3 notes. It's going to be 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. If you pay close attention, here's Migos with Deads to demonstrate that flow. Next we have the 16th note flow, or commonly known as the double time flow. Here's Tech 9 with That Owl to demonstrate this.
Give me the benefit, never give you the idiot when I rip it, I really know what to do. Live it on my level, loving, knowing about when I spit enough of the drug and I'm about to flip like a boom.
And finally, just for fun, I'm going to show you some warped abomination that only the likes of Kendrick Lamar could come up with. Here you go.
I'm talking higher power every other hour since Eddie Bowers and stash boxes and lead showers, breaking the padlock and the dead coward, dying 1,000 deaths, entire lion surround itself with bears watching. You share profit.
For each of those flows, you can combine them in an infinite number of ways. Even within the same speed, let's say all 8th notes, you can group the syllables differently and have completely different effects, as you can see from the Kendrick Lamar example and the first 8th note example. Personally, flow is the single most important part of a hip-hop track. It's the reason why Tech 9 is my favorite artist. It's also the reason why Takeoff is my favorite member of the Migos. His verse on Get Right Witcha is a masterclass on using pauses and playing with the listener's expectations. But that's for another video. In summary, flow is about rhythmic variation and how you use it to capture the listener's attention. Up next we have rhymes. Rhyming is probably the most crucial and universal part of hip-hop music and has been a cornerstone since its inception in the 70s. It's the one thing that truly separates hip-hop music from all other types of music. Your verses must rhyme. Often the complexity of the rhyme schemes are judged very critically when determining how skillful an artist is in the art of hip-hop. In the simplest terms, a rhyme is a repetition of sounds. A rhyme scheme is basically the types of repetitions and the placements of these repetitions over the beat. So for example, here's a very simple rhyme. Here we have cat, and hat. Probably the most pervasive rhyme in the history of our lives. Dr. Seuss basically made a living just off these two words. Anyway, this is what we would call a perfect rhyme, where the vowel sound is the same and all the letters following it are identical. So here we have the at sound being the same, and then we have the T at the end being identical. Here's an example of a rhyme scheme. Here we have a literary masterpiece with two distinct rhyme sounds. We have the ed sounds and the at sounds. Now the rhyme scheme here is that the ed sounds fall on the second beat of every bar, and that the at sounds fall on the fourth beat of every bar. This goes over 2 bars, and so it's called a scheme. Here, the ed sounds are called internal rhymes because they fall in the middle of the bar, and the at sounds are called end rhymes because they fall at the end of the bar. Often what rappers will try to do is they'll create these complex, intricate schemes with multi-syllable internals and end rhymes and things going over the bar lines and things like that. And they'll even use something called slant rhymes, where the words aren't quite the same, but they sound similar enough where if you say it with a certain accent, you can get it to sound the same. And when you master these old hip-hop techniques, you can come up with some great things, such as this solo reprise from Andre 3000.
After 20 years in, I'm so naive I was under the impression that everyone wrote their own verses. It's coming back different, and yeah, that shit hurts me. I'm humming and whistling to those not deserving. I stumbled and lived every word. Was I working just way too hard?
Despite the complexity you see on the page there, when you simply listen to the verse, you may not even consciously notice it's happening. However, your brain has inbuilt feelings associated with certain sounds, and rhymes are important because they add to these feelings of the song that the instrumental and the delivery and the flow already built on. There are great differences in the emotion one feels when they hear different types of rhymes. For example, when someone hears gruff, grumpy grumblings versus the lovely lyrical melodies. The first one sounds harsher, the second one sounds more melodic. Now, given these, the final component of a hip-hop track is the lyrics. Lyrics comprise the actual words used and the meaning behind them. The reason this is the last component to the hip-hop puzzle is because it's the most cerebral element. You can tap your feet to the beat without giving it any thought. You can immediately hear the passion, or lack thereof, in someone's delivery. You can feel the rhythm of someone's flow. Your brain senses the cacophonies and euphonies of a rhyme scheme. You cannot understand lyrics without putting your brain to work. This is also why it's not only about what you say, but how you say it. Given that you're saying it well, good lyrics are the ultimate goal of a hip-hop artist. This truly will define whether you're just a good artist or if you're a great artist. Now, there's no universal definition of what good lyrics are, but the key is for the lyrics to convey the message the artist wishes to deliver in an impactful way. Whether that's saying literally what it is you want to say, or presenting the message in a deep and layered metaphor. As long as you get your message across well, they are good lyrics. That having been said, there are of course tools to the trade, and I'm going to demonstrate some of these techniques via a few examples.
Woke up at 7, my day seemed more than I prayed for. Got dressed to head out and ride to school on my skateboard. New kid in class, I sat alone taking notes while the hoodlums were making jokes at the clothes that my mama paid for.
In this example, Joyner Lucas is telling a story, and so he's using very simple diction, using very literal words, and trying to create an image in your head. This is called imagery, and something you might have already heard of, a very, self-explanatory. But the goal here is for the listener to feel and visualize exactly what Joyner Lucas wants to portray. And I think if you really want to see one of the most beautiful and well done stories in your life, please go and check out this video. It's on YouTube, Ross Cappuccioni. It's fantastic, and the lyrics are unbelievable. A second example.
Come on. I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor, and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch.
Here we see some powerful lyrics with a deeper meaning about being poor and having to steal to find your way because you're hungry. He doesn't literally say the words that he's hungry, but he says, my stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. This is kind of an indirect use of words to kind of make you think about what it means. because why does he have to steal something because his stomach hurts? But in any case, it's a literary technique he's using to make you think. In the beginning there, he's asking the questions to himself, but as a listener, you see that and you immediately start to wonder what the answers to these questions are. This is also another technique that Tupac uses, and he often does use it. This is a very great technique, and it's a good lyrical display here. This final example I'm not going to be playing for you because it's so short, but I just wanted to give you an example of a double entendre, which just means multiple meanings, or two meanings in this case. You're watching a massacre like you're watching a church gathering take place. Initially, this even has some shock value, which is another technique that people often use to catch their listeners' attention. But when you take a closer look, you notice you're watching a massacre, but it can also be, when you hear it, it can sound like you're watching a mass occur, as in the church gathering on Sundays. So this is a great use of shock value and double entendre to get the listener's attention, and it's really funny, and it's a punchline. So this is a good example I wanted to show you guys. Now these are very simple examples of like lyrical techniques, but the reason there's just so much to talk about when it comes to lyrics. And of course this video is just supposed to be an overview, and I can't really get into too much depth because lyrics can often get so deep where you have to analyze various layers and try to figure out how they connect, and sometimes they have connections between various parts of like an album. Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly, for example, is just a fantastic display of that. But in any case, that's basically a general overview of lyrics, and everything, all of this builds up to the lyrics. If your lyrics are bad, for the most part, you're not going to be considered a great artist. You can still be popular, but at the end of the day, the lyrics are the end-all be-all of being a great hip-hop artist. Now, if you have any questions, of course, leave comments below, because that is basically the end of the video. As always, if you like what you see, like, comment, and subscribe, because I'm always looking for great feedback, and I'm always looking to, produce more content for you guys. In any case, this is Killer App with Hip Hop Science. You watched Hip Hop 101, and this is me signing out.